Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, a little bit late to the party here. I've been away for the weekend, but I thought you might like to hear my thoughts on Bethesda's conference, Fallout 76 panel rather, at Quakecon this weekend. There's a few people who got out there already, but I thought I'd chuck my 2 cents in anyway. So, notes at the ready. Are we all sitting comfortably? First thing I took away from this was that every time Bethesda give us more information, make another announcement about Fallout 76, I've been fairly confident that they're going to produce something solid and, if not really good, the whole time. And each time they give us more information, I wind up feeling even more confident. So I'm very much still hyped for it, getting more hyped than ever, and I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a lot of fun, I think. I'm not going to go through everything, give you all the details. I will link the panel down in the description if you want to go and watch it for yourselves, but I'm going to talk about a few of my takeaway points and my feelings on them. So, one of the big things I noticed people in the chat saying was no new gameplay shown at this particular event, and yep, that's true. We didn't see anything new. I don't think that really matters all that much to me. In a sense, we've seen a bit, we've got some idea of what the world's going to look like, some idea at least. It's also obviously going to be a Fallout game. It's obviously going to be a Bethesda-era Fallout game, so we're not about to get an isometric-looking game. We know what we're going to get. It's going to be a lot greener, there's going to be a lot more dynamic environments, but we already know that. How much more gameplay do we need at this juncture? I think we'll probably get more before it comes out, but right now it's not all that important, really. The point here was more to answer questions and just offer a little bit more information. Sort of in a more theoretical sense, I suppose. But they did that quite well. Limited time, and obviously this game is huge, so they could talk about it for weeks, probably. The first thing they talked about was character development, character creation, and the perk system. So, character creation's an upgraded version of Fallout 4 from the look of this, which is fine. About what I expected as well. The system in Fallout 4 works. It's a little awkward to manipulate on console, and if you want to create a specific look for your character, you probably need a bit more artistic talent than I've really got. But there we go. I'd imagine it'll be easier, and the potential will be much bigger in this one, so that should be something to look forward to. Create some interesting looking characters. The perks and special system, obviously specials will be back, perks will be back, but they're going to be different. Everybody will start out the same, which kind of makes sense in an online multiplayer. All your specials are going to be at 1, and each level you'll put more points into whichever one you want, and you'll get perk cards, which you'll be able to pick the ones you want as and when you level up. And every so often they're going to drop you a random set of them to mix things up a little bit. And you'll get the choice as to whether or not you want a new perk, or you want to upgrade an existing one and make it more powerful. And then from there, you take the perk cards, you essentially equip them, and choose your loadout that way, or choose how you want to build your character. So that should give a lot more dynamic options and a lot more ability to sort of change the way you've spec'd and the way you've built your character on the fly. Which, well, almost on the fly anyway. It's a constant multiplayer game. You can't really be doing it in combat unless you want to get shot. But there we go. It does give you a chance to go, okay, I'm going into this situation, this is more what I'm going to need, rather than whatever your other loadouts might be. From the sound of it, there's a huge number of perks in this game, way more than we've ever had before, so there'll be a huge amount of options and a lot of character customization, which is very cool. Always down for more of that. Yeah, I think that covered most of the big stuff. Obviously, you're not going to be able to slap every perk you've got on all at once, and the number of... Excuse me, hitting my desk there. The number of points you've got into a specific special stat will affect the number of perks you can have equipped for that, or that tie into that special stat, and then you'll be able to, the more you've got in, the more you'll be able to attach, and the more powerful a perk is, the more it will cost. So you'll be able to have lots of weak ones, or a few particularly powerful ones, or, you know, the balance. Which all makes sense. It's a fairly logical, semi-intuitive system. I'm sure we'll get it figured out fast enough. It doesn't look like it's particularly insanely difficult to wrap your head around. But it does seem to be quite wide in its scope, its breadth, for want of a better way of putting it. It actually reminds me, I don't know if any of you guys have played Warframe at all, but it kind of looks a little bit like the modding system in that. You use different cards and put them onto your weapons and armour and whatever, and they give you different abilities and boost the abilities you have, so it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Although I suspect it'll be a lot less complicated than that game is. The other thing that was quite interesting is charisma. Obviously with no NPCs, there's no point in having charisma because you can't persuade somebody who's not there. So it seems they're going to focus it way more on squad-based powers and abilities and skills. So if you're going to be playing a lot more on the multiplayer side, then that will be something you might want to look at more, or less so if you're going to be soloing it. But there's still some perks in there that might be interesting for you as well, from what they say. And apparently if you do want to play with other people, you'll be able to share the benefits of your perks, assuming you have the right perk to do that, I think. Which, that's a bit open, I don't know. Might be interesting. They did say that the game would get considerably easier if you play it as part of a group. That might be part of that, more than just having more guns shooting, I suppose. But not so much that it'll become a total walk in the park, and not so much so in the opposite direction that you can't solo. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually pans out. I think, even if they didn't explain it fantastically, I think they've got a better idea of where they're going with it, and they're still tweaking things as well, of course. So we'll see what happens with that. And of course, they've also made it very clear that they're going to keep developing and keep taking feedback and keep building on things and growing the game. It'll be sort of a living organism in a way. Well after release. Todd Howes was alluding to anything up to 10 plus 50, who knows, more years after release. So they've no plans to walk away from it, really. So that sounds pretty cool. They talked a bit about the beta. The obvious big question is, what the heck is the point in putting a beta right before release? Well, they're not there yet. They're not done with the game. I think that's the big takeaway. The other thing is, it sounds more and more like it'll just roll over straight to release day and into it, and they'll be patching continuously. But what they did say was that they are fully expecting the game to break when they launch it. Not the most confident and inspiring statement ever, but probably quite a sensible one. The thing is, most massive games like this, when everybody hits the servers all at once, they break. Bethesda are obviously cottoned onto this and are going to try and avoid that as much as possible, I'm sure, but they're also going to be realistic about it, I think, which is a good response, I think. So, yeah, it sucks when your game crashes, and it sucks even more if it's a full release and you're not expecting and it's supposed to work properly and it doesn't. On the other hand, with a beta, basically what they're saying is, it's going to break, we know it's going to break, now you know it's going to break too. Let's control this a little bit, make sure we figure out the problems, get them fixed, and at least you know what you're let in for. So it'll take some of the sting out of it when it inevitably does break. So they're being honest and upfront, which I frankly admire, to be honest. I think it's the right approach. It does mean it's a bit of a last minute thing, so I'd imagine, particularly in the early months, we'll be getting a few very large patches, but you know, that's kind of happens every time Bethesda release any game anyway, so it is what it is. So, PvP, the $1 million question. In short, one of the biggest things is they've alluded to it before, you can opt out. You can literally click a button, I don't want to engage in PvP, and it will not 100% opt you out, but it will mean nobody can trick you into getting into a fight with them. They'll still be able to stand there and shoot at you. They won't take very much damage. You will take some. But, so the threat doesn't completely go away, but you can't be forced into a situation you don't want to be in for the most part, which is good. The other thing you can do, if you really don't want, if this is getting too much or somebody won't leave you alone and you want them to, block them. Block, ignore, that sort of thing. Presumably that means the bullets will then do no damage. They won't be able to tag you on maps, find you on maps, and the game's huge, so they'll have a hard time finding you anyway. So that sounds promising. If you don't do that, and somebody continues to attack you and succeeds in killing you, they will get absolutely nothing for it. Whereas if you do engage, and then you choose to take the fight, and lose, or win, whichever way you want to look at it, the loser does lose a few caps, and they lose all their junk, but that's it. Like your guns, your armor, all the important stuff, meds, you'll keep those. Just the little things you lose. The reason being they apparently tried 0 loss deaths, so there's no penalty whatsoever, but then where's the, the tension, the pressure? There's nothing, you've got nothing to lose, you've got almost no reason to play in some ways. There's no pressure to improve or no excitement. So I think they're right on that. The other thing is, jumping back to the PvP angle, if somebody does persist and kill you, they will get absolutely nothing. No goodies off you, no caps, no XP for the kill. What they will get is a very nice little flag that says, "You're a wanted murderer," and a bounty on their head. Now all of a sudden, everybody on the server can see that person on the map. They'll be marked with a little star that shows approximately where they are. And you can go and hunt this person with impunity, if you so desire. Or you can run the hell out in the other direction, whatever floats your boat. But if you do hunt them down, there's nothing much they can do about it apart from try and defend themselves. I don't imagine things will get any worse for them if they succeed, but I don't know. And if you do hunt them down, you will be able to, successfully anyway, you will be able to claim the bounty that is placed on them. Something that is paid out of the murderer's own pocket. So if you go out and kill somebody who doesn't want to do PvP, not only do you get nothing for it, people are going to come and find you, and they're going to take your money. And they'll kill you to do it. So it puts a big incentive to think twice before you do that sort of thing. It won't stop everybody, but that's what the ignore things are for if you want them. On the other hand, it will mean you can basically become a bounty hunter in game if you want as well, so that'd be an interesting angle to pursue. Hunt somebody down and earn your money that way. I think what Bethesda are trying to do with that is to take something that a lot of people are concerned about and make it fun, which seems like a good approach. There's a certain amount of the drawbacks to PvP that you can't remove without removing PvP. So rather than do that, they've just gone, okay, how do we make this fun for everybody, no matter what happens? Well, that's how they're going for it. Of course, the other option is you can just run the hell away, and apparently they provide quite a few options for you to do that. So it's not going to tie you into a situation you don't want to be in. Other thing, of course, is there's the level curve. If somebody comes at you who is a much higher level, if they've got the drop on you, you're probably in trouble if you take the fight. If you have the drop on them, however, because the way the level and power systems will work, they're going to balance it a little bit more. So it's a shallower curve of progression when you're in PvP compared to when you're in PvE. So the upshot being, even if you are a lower level, if you're smart and you play it right, you can still win against a much more powerful person, and you will get a bigger reward for doing so. And just how much the pain of losing is, and how much you lose if you do lose, what portion of your caps you might lose, for example, I don't know, they haven't said anything. But that's kind of alarming, but on the other hand, I can't really see them making it take all your caps and leaving you, broke. I don't think that's going to happen. It just doesn't fit their style, to my mind, or the style they're going for with this game anyway. VATS obviously is there, it's in real time, it'll help you aim at enemies, it'll help you find enemies, which is apparently something it's very useful for, but it's of limited use if you have low perception or you haven't spec'd into it. So early on, you're going to need to free aim a bit. But, oh yeah, other point, PvP doesn't start until you're level 5, so you're probably going to run into the lower level enemies in the early part of the game. You'll probably be able to cope with it, especially if you've got a shotgun or something. That's usually my solution if I end up, excuse me, face to face with somebody who's, an enemy who's considerably more powerful than me, and they wind up right up in my face. Shotgun, boom, problem solved most of the time. Anyway, slight deviation there. But yeah, you will be able to spec into VATS, make it more powerful if that's what you want to do. If you don't. Obviously, it will mean as you progress through the early part of the game, you'll actually get better at aiming freehand anyway, because practice, So I think that will work out okay. And if you decide it's not working for you, you've got a little bit of time to get speccing into perception and VATS in order to deal with that before something like, for example, PvP becomes a problem, because that's not till level 5 anyway. Other big thing that they were asked about was mods and private servers. Apparently they're having a hard time getting that sorted, but they are committed to doing so. So that's all we've got at the moment. It's not anything we didn't already know, but it's good to have that reiterated. We'll get there. They didn't mention, as much as I would have liked, about the building angle, which is unfortunate. I would have liked a few more details. I'd like to know what's going on. Everything they said on that, unfortunately, is stuff we've heard before. You can pack up and move, you can blueprint things and just replace them later, that sort of thing. Which is good, but it does mean, from what I could tell, obviously without mods, it's going to slow down the rate people can build at, because you'll have to acquire building materials the old-fashioned way. And it won't involve running off to Diamond City and buying them. So it'll be hunt for them and build when you can. So it's probably going to slow down the rate of building videos I'm doing. On the other hand, we'll diversify a little bit. We'll play the game, have some fun, that sort of thing. Stream. And maybe do the odd video. Well, probably the whole lot. We'll see what happens. But we'll have to compensate for that, because my current approach is to go to the place I'm building, use a chemistry station and the FreeMaker mod to just spawn in a massive amount of building materials and go crazy. Which I won't be able to do. So I would have liked a little bit more information on the improvements they're going to make and whether or not they've learnt the lessons of Fallout 4 and how much they've taken from the way the building community has developed since the release of Fallout 4. I would imagine they have paid attention to it. They've paid attention to so much else, it would be foolish if they ignored that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. And speaking of waiting and seeing, apparently there is more news coming soon. Don't know when, don't know what, but it's coming apparently. Presumably well before beta, so keep the ears to the ground on that one. So that's the big things I wanted to say. I think it's looking like they're taking things people are most worried about and they're going to make them fun. And I think that's a good approach. It's not taking out the stuff that other people will want, but it should be an interesting approach. It'll be something nobody's done before, I think. It'll certainly be different for us as Fallout players anyway, so that should be cool. Other thing that wasn't mentioned that is probably relevant, that's come up recently, is obviously the game's not on Steam, which has upset a lot of people, and I have absolutely no idea why. I think it's daft, personally. So you go onto Bethesda.net, you register your account there, you probably already have. If you haven't, well, big deal, stick in an email address, crack on. Download the launcher. It's a very light piece of software that you've got to download. Yeah, it's a bit of a faff, but you know, there's already GOG out there, Battle.net, Origin, everything else that certain other games are only accessible through, that don't flag up on Steam and never have, and have been very successful in spite of that. So it's just, you're using a different program to launch the game, that's all. It's not going to make a big difference, I don't think. Maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like much ado about nothing, really. Perhaps it is worth mentioning that one of the major reasons that they won't come out and say, but it's probably true anyway, is that Steam takes a 30% commission on every game sale they make from the developer. So obviously that's 30% of whatever you pay that Bethesda aren't getting if you buy it through Steam. And they intend to support this game for a long time. That's going to cost money. They're going to need revenue to be able to, pay people's wages and stuff. So you can kind of understand them not wanting to give away anything they don't have to, I guess. Especially as they're using their own servers and like custom-built servers, that sort of thing, to run the game. So they're going to need every penny they can get at the same time as, they'd like to be in the black on this, I'm sure. But there we go. That's my 2 cents. That's what I think. If you've got anything you'd like to ask or say or, get some clarification on, obviously the link will be down in the description so you can watch the stream yourself. It's about an hour and a half long, less than an hour by the time you've skipped past the intro. And of course you can drop me a comment, ask me whatever you like, and I will obviously do my best to get back to you. I will probably be streaming again later in the week. I know I've had a little break from that. Things have been a little bit all over the place on my end, so it happens. But yeah, I'm going to try and get back into that this week, so if you drop by on that, do hit me up in the chat and we can have a more direct conversation about it if you'd like to do that. For now, thank you very much for watching. I do hope that was interesting or informative, that sort of thing. I have rambled for a lot longer than I thought I was going to. But for now, thank you very much. If you'd like to support the channel, options down in the description as usual. Follow me on social media, all that good stuff. I will be speaking to you all very, very soon. Thank you very much.